What's up, YouTube? It's Cholula's Comics, and I'm bringing you night 5 of my 13 Nights of Halloween special. Today, for the sake of a Monday, I'm bringing you some Mutant Monday and some Silver Age goodness. This is X-Men number 40, first appearance of Frankenstein in the series, and Frankenstein is my favorite universal monster. I love me some Frankenstein. And as a matter of fact, this book is so nice, I had to pick it up twice. They're alright copies. These are pretty cool copies. It's just for my personal collection. They'll definitely benefit from pressing and cleaning, but I still love, I really love these books, and I'm in the market for a third. If I find me a third for the right price, I'll pick this book up all day. I love this book. Like I said, mainly because I love me some Frankenstein. And I like Frankenstein so much. You guys know I don't collect a whole ton of pops, but I had to pick this one up. This is a Funko Pop Frankenstein from the Universal Monster series. And this is actually a set that I wouldn't mind picking up the entire set of. We got Dracula, we got Frankenstein, we got the Bride of Frankenstein, we got the Wolfman, the Mummy, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, the Phantom of the Opera, and that last one is Metaluna Mutant. I don't know that one. If you guys know about that one, let me know, because that's actually one that's new to me. I've never heard of them. The four main guys that I like are, Frankenstein, Drac, Werewolf, and the Mummy. But I wouldn't mind getting my hands on the whole set. Again, we're going to be bringing you X-Men number 40, The Mark of the Monster, as reprinted. I believe it was in X-Men number 88. You know, after a certain milestone with these X-Men books, what they did was they stopped making new ones and they started reprinting them. So there's actually a pretty cool cover reprint, and I'll put it in the slideshow for the video, just so we can see the difference. And I wouldn't mind getting my hands on a copy of that one too. But again, without further ado, let's get into the story. I hope you guys enjoy it. So here, I just wanted to show you guys a close-up of the original cover. X-Men number 40. It's a 12-cent issue, so that's that Silver Age goodness. Really nice, vibrant colors. And when you compare it to the other cover that I told you I was going to bring up, this is X-Men number 88, when they started the reprints, and they pretty much the same exact cover. They just changed some of the coloring, and they actually did change, it looks like Frankenstein's head and face. If you ask me, I like the coloring, and I like the drawing of Frankenstein in the first version. So the X-Men Mark of the Monster. The story opens up as the X-Men are fresh off of a mission where they saved the world from nuclear disaster, and they're completing a training session in the Danger Room. You know, just to give you an idea on the sign of the times, this is old school X-Men here, Silver Age goodness. You know, they dress differently, they speak differently, and you know, here we got Iceman giving Beast a warning, saying, "Hey, be careful in the Danger Room." And Beast, he responds, and it really reminds me of, if you guys remember the X-Men the animated series, the way that Hank McCoy used to speak in that series. So we got Beast here saying, "You may dispense with the admonitory remarks, Mr. Summers. Neither sleet nor snow may slow the bounding beast on his appointed rounds," to coin a phrase. And as poor Beast tries to make his way through the obstacle course, Bobby, being the practical joker that he is, thinks it would be a good idea to freeze the rope. Fortunately for Beast, he slips right off and bashes his head. And it's messed up that Bobby doesn't even try to apologize. He's just more like, "Can't you take a joke?" And Beast is like, "Nope, I'm gonna pay you back." But before they can even get into it, Professor X chimes in, and he needs to speak with them in the study. As the team races down the hallway and meets Professor X in his study, he has some incredible, unbelievable, and unsettling news for them. The monster of Victor Frankenstein has been found. As the majority of the team registers their disbelief, Professor X assures them that he's always thought the monster was real. Not the movie monster, of course, but the monster that was based off the novel by Mary Shelley. As the professor retells the ending of the story for the team, Cyclops butts in and asks why this matter should even concern them. Jean, however, being the critical thinker that she is, chimes in and says, "Do you think the real creature was a mutant?" To which the professor replies, "No, Jean, though your guess is not far wrong. I suspect that the supposed monster was in truth a super powerful android. Yet, by examining him, I may prove that his creator, whoever he may have been, was a mutant." And while I wasn't all too pumped to hear that they turned my boy, the monster of Frankenstein, into a freaking android, I was kind of pumped to hear that Professor X thinks that the Dr. Frankenstein might have been a mutant. That was pretty cool to hear. And just as the X-Men get to the museum and try to make their way in, Dr. Powell is inside the museum, lowering the temperature on the gigantic glacier that entombs the monster so he can begin his examinations and experiments. Dr. Powell thought it was impossible, but the monster lives. The X-Men try a frontal assault on the brute, but he is way too strong for them. Even the strength of the beast, Hank McCoy, is no match for the brute. Cyclops steps up to the plate and says, "Okay, monster," or whatever you call yourself. And this is indeed a nod to the novel. A lot of people mistakenly call the monster Frankenstein. But no, the doctor who created him was Frankenstein. In fact, the monster was actually never even given a name. Most of the time in the novel, they just called him a horrible wretch. But even Cyclops' beam couldn't slow the monster down. After Cyc hits the monster with his eye-beams that have no effect, it's the monster's turn with some eye-beams of his own. He knocks all the X-Men down and unconscious, and makes his escape. The X-Men quickly regain consciousness, though, and try to make their way out. The curator of the museum, however, thinks the X-Men vandalized his museum, and he tries to keep them there holding his gun on them. Luckily, though, Iceman is able to freeze him right in his tracks. Angel was tasked with tracking the monster, which proved to be an easy task, as the monster left a path of destruction in his wake on his way to the docks. The X-Men, with the help of a little mental coercion from the professor, were able to borrow a helicopter from the Pan Am building. As the X-Men finally make their way onto the ship, they now have the ship's crew to deal with. And remember, the X-Men know the crew is only trying to protect their ship, so they handle the crew with kid gloves. Professor X even jumps in the mix by putting a mental freeze on the crew so they can't move. And as Beast is the first one to stumble upon the monster makes it quite clear that he is constantly being pursued by these costume menaces, which is the same feeling the monster gives us in the novel. Man, can't they just leave this poor guy alone? It takes the whole costume team just to keep the monster on his toes. Bobby finally jumps in and catches the monster's attention, and for all his effort, the monster claims he's going to kill Bobby first. And it's important to note that Professor had previously asked Bobby to sit on the sidelines for some reason. He probably has some secret plan that he hasn't let the rest of the team in on yet. As the fight rages on, the monster keeps referencing the costumed ones who always are hunting him down. Finally, someone asks the question of who were the first costumed ones to hunt this guy. Before any answers can be made, however, Professor X quickly jumps in and draws the monster's attention to himself to free his team up. As the monster tries to make his way to Professor X, Cyclops quickly jumps in and tries to save the professor, but his optic blast would prove not to be nearly enough to stop the monster. But he did buy the professor enough time to get Bobby up and running again, who holds the key to the monster's defeat: ice. Ice is the monster's greatest weakness. As Bobby continues to pile on the ice, it proves to be too much for the monster, whose android body finally explodes. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, the professor lets the students know that in the last moments of the monster's life, he was able to probe the monster's mind and find out its origins. It turns out the monster came from a tropical alien world, and he was sent to Earth to be an ambassador between the two worlds. But somewhere along the line, his programming malfunctioned and he became a menace. The aliens found out about the monster malfunctioning and pursued him to the polar regions. And we finally find out that the monster mistook the X-Men for the aliens that originally pursued him because of the same types of colorful costumes that they wear. Seems like the poor guy never did catch a break. And with that, you guys, this brings us Mutant Monday, this Silver Age goodness, and this issue 5 of this 13 Nights of Halloween special that I got going on to a close. Thank you guys all for sticking with me and checking out the video. If you guys have any questions, you already know who it is. It's Cholula's Comics. Feel free to hit me up. And until I see you next time, keep stacking hella comics.